Game Masters, we need to talk about performance checks. Performance checks are one of those places where things can really go wrong. They can be very feel-bad moments for players who are playing characters like bards who really rely on them, and getting them right is not that difficult, but I have some tips to help you crush it. Listen, if you can run performance checks amazing for your player characters, especially those bards, you're going to really win over some lifelong fans as players. And I've got 5 tips that I have literally used in my games, and I've run bards before, so I know that these work. You're not going to want to miss this. Let's dive in. Tip number 1, establish clear mechanics and expectations. Because performance checks are one of those types of checks that can really vary in how they're run between different game masters, it's pretty important at session 0 that you talk directly with your bard players or players who are planning on really focusing on performance checks so that they can determine right away whether your performance check method is awesome or it sucks. To make sure they understand how you run them and what mechanics you're literally going to use. Are you going to run them by the book? Are you going to allow for extra creativity? These are really important questions, and clarifying them early with your characters will help to avoid frustration that comes from that expectation of having them resolved one way, but then you as a GM resolving them another way. Note that if you are a relatively new GM or even an experienced GM who likes to talk about these kinds of things, I have a Discord called the GM Philosophy Discord, which is basically a whole bunch of game masters, over 400 of us at this point. We talk about this kind of stuff all the time. Links in the description. You should join us. It's awesome. If you've ever played a bard, you know that not having your performance checks work the way you're planning on having them work can be very frustrating. I'm talking from experience. Tip number 2, I would encourage you to let players use creativity and extra flair and out-of-the-box methods when making performance checks. Here's the thing about performance. It's kind of narrowly defined. And if we go only rules as written, we're actually limiting it quite a bit. There is so much creative potential within that skill to kind of broaden it and let players think outside of the box. Is the character trying to flirt? Roll a performance check. Are you having a fade to black romantic scene in the bedroom? Performance check. When you let players think out of the box, it basically rewards them for creativity. And let me tell you, bards need this kind of thing. They need it. They need it so badly. So let them have it. Let them be creative. Let them find new and inventive ways of using performance checks to help them in their character arcs. I would also encourage you to invite them to make performance checks at times when you think, wow, this could be a creative place to use it. This will make them feel way more special, and it actually will make them feel like a much more integral part of the mechanics of the game if you include them in this. I'm going to tell you this from experience. Bards are kind of selectively useful, and when you give them the opportunity to be a big part of a scene, it actually makes a big difference. They're not a heavy-hitting spellcaster, and they're not a heavy-hitting axe wielder. They just kind of sing songs and use medium-level spells. So boom. Point number 3, balance success and challenge. Another interesting quirk about performance checks is that sometimes they can literally be too easy and they can take all the challenge out of it. So I like to give different levels of success. Like a roll down here will equal, oh, the crowd, likes you fine. Below that, it's like, oh, they don't really like you very much. Way below that, and it's like, well, no, they're throwing tomatoes at you. Or if it's really high, it's like the crowd literally starts chanting your name. You're becoming like a local folk hero, right? And then success can build on itself. If the checks are too difficult, they're going to frustrate the players. Well, if you make them too easy, performance checks are going to lose their meaning and they're not going to matter. So I always like to treat performance checks on a sliding scale. Whenever a bard tries a performance check, they're probably going to achieve some kind of outcome. That might mean they get ignored. That might mean they get cabbage thrown at them. That might mean people are going to start following them around and trying to give them money and become groupies. Stalking is also totally a possibility. High key. But there's going to be some kind of result. This keeps performance checks relevant, but it also makes them challenging and kind of risky. And I think that this is a good balance. One thing you might realize about performance checks is that they can very quickly lead to extra plot arcs. And to that, you may be thinking to yourself, oh my God, I don't want to be thinking of plot arcs all the time. Well, I have a free ebook that I give away to help people do that. It's called the Ultimate Plot Randomizer. This is an ebook I created. I give it away for free on this channel. If you sign up for my email list, it'll come in your inbox within the first 15 minutes. Basically, it consists of 4 D100 tables that'll let you random roll plot arcs on the fly, roll in the hook table, the complication table, the climax table, and even on the wild and wacky table to come up with plot arcs that your characters would never see coming. I use this all the time when I'm just needing to come up with plot arcs off the cuff, on the fly, and let me tell you, performance checks can often lead to plot hooks. So make sure you click down in the description, sign up for my email list, grab that ebook, print it out, and put it with your stuff. That way you will never run out of plot hooks for your bards ever again. In the whole universe, you'll have plot arcs literally till the end of time. Tip number 4 is immerse your players in the scene. Now at this point I do have to let you know, tip number 4 is a bit lengthy because I have a couple different parts to this. It's a really important one though, so stick with me, but it's not quite as important as tip number 5. Tip number 5, which is going to be our final point, is going to be really, really important. This is going to be it's going to put the cherry on top of the cake. You're not going to miss that one. So thank you so much for sticking with me for this long, and please go ahead and stick with me for the rest of the video. You are definitely not going to regret it. Performance checks are really interesting in that they rely on data, sensory data. And your bard players are really interesting in that they rely on you as the game master to provide them with this sensory data. So describe the crowd. Describe the feel of the crowd as the bard starts playing music. Describe specifically how the front row of onlookers are responding to the music. Describe the smell of the air, what the sun looks like, what the temperature is like. As the performance checks begin to be made, tell the bard how the audience is responding. Are they getting rowdy? Are they getting drunk? Are they getting angry? Are they starting to fist bump? Are they starting to run around and act crazy? And if the bard rolls really high checks, ask the bard what kind of outcome they're looking for, and then ask them how they're going about it. You can also ask the bard how they're playing the music, how they're dancing, what they look like, what the music sounds like. And then based on the quality of like the descriptions they're giving you and on how those mesh with the crowd, that's GM knowledge, you can make the checks be way better or not so good, or maybe there's like cultural differences, or maybe the bard finds the perfect angle, whatever. But this immersion really gives the bard more power over the scene and gives them power over a skill that is admittedly very open-ended and creative. That's the thing about performance. It's not like a math-based skill. It's not like picking a lock or hitting an enemy. It's very contextual and artistic. Therefore, giving the bard power over it by asking them exactly how they're orchestrating it will allow you to maybe add some pluses or minuses or give advantage or disadvantage, and it can really lend to making the scene feel more immersive for the player character. Now, speaking of immersion, one really interesting thing about bards and performance kind of related characters is that generally, in order for them to be maximally effective, they're going to happen around crowds, which means villages or cities or towns. But in these cities, villages, and towns, context is everything, and fleshing out those shops can be a challenge. And that's why me and some of the other awesome creators over at GM Philosophy Community Publishing have created this ebook, 50 Mundane TTRPG Shops, an expansive compendium of shops, purveyors, goods, services, prices, and more. Take a look at this, literally 50 different shops, awesome stuff that you can throw into a game, system agnostic, complete with all kinds of awesome things. Let's scroll down here to the Devilbane's Armory, just to give you a little sample of what kind of shops this book has. This is going to give you a description, brief history of the establishment, brief lore of the establishment, outside view GM description, so you can read this to your players, inside view description, owner, purveyor, name description, and motivations. Check this out. Other employees, names, descriptions, and motivations. There's no other employees, but it gives you a little notes about this. Some stores do have additional employees. Services offered and prices. This is awesome. So you get a full list of all the wares offered at this shop. In this particular shop, there are special items, and then there are common stock items, and then additional random notes offered, along with potential plot arc ideas for this particular store. You can purchase this awesome ebook off my personal bookstore for just $4.99. Link is in the description. Or for prices starting at just $5.99 a month, you can join my GM Philosophy Community Supporter Ko-Fi. There are 4 different membership tiers available, and for members, they get access to my entire ebook library, plus other benefits if you sign up at higher tiers. Plus, we add at least 2 ebooks literally every single month. Plus, you'll be supporting the YouTube channel, our awesome GM Philosophy Discord, the email newsletter, and more. So boom, go grab that ebook. Definitely going to want this when your bard rolls into town to help you really give those shops and hence the audience a bit of flair. And that's going to lead us to our final point. make sure that you give in-game feedback. When the bard or the player is making the performance check, this is one thing. When you're kind of describing what's going on, that's another thing. But it's really important to give the bard after-action feedback. Be like, it looks like the crowd really enjoyed your song, or yeah, you see those people looking at you with a new, like a new look of distrust, or you see people are looking at you angrily. They did not like the song you were playing. The style was terrible, or maybe like people are literally coming up to them asking for autographs. Giving them after action feedback will really help them to feel like they made a big difference in the scene. And this is just another element to really giving them actual visceral tangible benefits from using the perform check, because that's one of the things. If you go to pick a lock, if the lock is picked, you get instant feedback, you get instant benefits from it. If you go to whack a character and you hit, you roll damage. But with entertainment checks like performance checks, it's not always so visceral and the benefits aren't always so clear cut. So making sure that you add those can really give the character that boost of like, yeah, I did it, I did something cool and I'd like to do this again for my player. And that makes running the character a lot more cool. Basically, it makes it feel a lot better, it makes it a lot more fun. So give them that after action feedback. Make sure that you really lay in there the result that their performance check had for their character, and that will make it feel a lot better and make it a lot more fun. And that, my friends, is going to be a wrap for this one. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm here every single day creating videos about the best game in the world, D&D. I will see you awesome people on the next one. Roll some D100s for me at your next game. Boom, catch you on the flip side.